Hi, welcome to our second video interview on the ESTHLA blog. You can see the rest of the interviews on esthla.wordpress.com. Today we're going to be interviewing a Greek-Chinese American artist who has a gallery in ESTHLA called Phoenix, Athens. He's going to talk to us about a few of the problems that he's faced setting up the gallery and running it in Athens, and he's going to show us around the two spaces and the maker's workshop that he has.
Yeah, right.
Lucius, are you going to take part in the interview too?
You put her on your lap. I'm not sure I should try.
It's okay.
But it's nice, she helps relax us.
Yeah.
It's like a talk show with animals.
Yeah. What's your name?
Yeah, Dimitri Yin, and I'm the founder and director of Phoenix, Athens. And I came here 3 years ago and started the project just renting out spaces and fixing them up and having a few shows, and things sort of just evolved from there. And I also wanted to have a residency project connected to it.
So you have two galleries and a makerspace?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah, so we started with one gallery space here on 87 SPPU, and now we have a second space across the street, and that allows us to have rotating shows with artists in residence as well as locals, so that it's a nice combo. We have workshops. The artists in residence who come to visit the space provide those, and they also provide talks about what they do, and then we have the exhibitions as well. Being able to share that with the community, of course, and inspire the community with their hope, hence the name Phoenix Athens, and the idea that, you know, we can somehow inspire the community to think creatively about the problems that they face. You know, we've often looked to New York or Paris or LA or, you know, other cities in Europe. For me, it's a bit silly, really, because Greece is so different, and geopolitically it's in a position that is so unique, where we're actually informed by these cultures that are extremely rich, but have been objectified because of colonial models and values as being inferior.
Yeah.
So this is a real big problem that needs to be redressed. So I see art actually as a form of problem solving. A sculptor, a painter deals with it when it comes to composition and the materials they use. You know.
So, talking about problem solving, what kind of problems have you faced with the bureaucracy here?
Well, obviously.
How has it helped or not helped you with your project?
Well, so that's a great question, because I came on board with the project thinking, how can I become something of an ambassador? And how can I help the economy? But I wasn't always thinking about what the local structures and the state would provide me with. And obviously with this COVID crisis, I've had to deal with this, and many of us have had to deal with this on a level that's completely unprecedented. How does the Greek state provide incentives, information, seamless registration processes for artists and cultural sector workers, curators, and gallerists, so that they can somehow apply and register to obtain legal status here? And then what are the advantages of the legal status once you have it? And like I said, taxes are a huge problem in Greece because they are actually very prohibitive at 25% of your income.
You mean VAT?
VAT, it just punishes you for starting a business and doing things legally. And what it does is obviously incentivizes people to do the opposite, to actually pay their employees under the table. Then their employees are undeclared. These are systemic problems where the system is rigged in all of the worst of ways.
Of course, you could argue that if there's so many people who are basically forced to work off the books, then they're not earning that 25% anyway, so it would maybe be helpful for the state as well to put in some more incentivizing sort of...
Right, and we've heard about the 50 million euros that the German government just gave to artists, and how taxes in France, for example, I know because I lived in France for 9 years before moving here, much less, you know. if you're making, I think, less than, I guess, I'm just right off the top of my head, it's like 50,000 euros a year, you're not going to be paying more than, say, 50% taxes.
Okay.
So, I mean, these sort of formulas will be so beneficial for the Greek arts and culture sector.
So there's a problem with taxes, basically, is what you're saying.
That's probably the biggest problem of all, and everything else, like if that problem was fixed, like so many other problems would actually fix themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main problems we're facing. I mean, we're obviously soliciting the state right now with the Cultural Workers Alliance of Greece and trying to figure out how we can organize to create funds for artists, services, information, all the things that aren't very easily accessible through the usual portals of ETH's website, the Chamber of Fine Arts, which is extremely, coveted and in many ways does serve its purpose by providing support to artists that are adherents and that do pay their membership fees. But there's many who don't.
And who can't, I guess.
And who can't. So there's these really big systemic problems with these state institutions which are supposed to cover visual artists, but can't. It's not that they don't, but they can't because there's actually so many more of them out there.
And in a very unstable, sort of insecure market.
Yeah, and it discourages artists from giving more, which is what they need to be able to do. They need to be encouraged to produce work, to host, workshops, exhibitions, to muck in with the community, to invite the community to really be, to feel safe, really. And the economic climate and the institutions that be, the state institutions that be, are not creating that kind of an environment. And they're allowing that to happen. I mean, they're making the provisions that are necessary for people in the cinema and theater sector, I think, to a greater extent than they are for visual artists, but of course that is also debatable.
Yeah.
I think that it just needs to be, basically, the Greek state needs to do a lot more to support its workers, to support the people also who are maybe forced to not declare through them, and find easier channels to facilitate those channels, and to not just...
I mean, they would make more taxes anyway if they could make it easier.
They have everything to gain. They've created a lose-lose scenario where they could create a possible win scenario.
Yeah.
I realized very quickly, with my accountant and what he was quoting me as the taxes I'd have to pay at 25%, that I was going to have to, pay a lot. And then we have paid that.
Yeah.
Basically, we declare on everything, on the residencies, on the sales of our work, because I've always wanted to do everything by the book. And that's one reason, and then the other reason was I had to establish credit quickly, and declaring that money vis-a-vis the bank was a attributed designated business account, of course, for this NFP, which I'm a small NFP, which is more of a business model. Right. But in any case, I wanted to do things in a very transparent and a very clear and legal way. And it's been incredibly difficult because at 25% on all monies generated, on all revenues that I obtain from residencies and from gallery sales and workshops as well, it's really, really hard to make ends meet. Paying for rents, paying the salary of an employee, and then having to declare that as well with the insurance that's attached to that by the Greek state. And so the only way for most businesses is to just dock a shorter number of hours and then have the rest written off as donation, as a kind of...
if they write them off at all.
If they're documented at all, right, yeah. It's something that really needs to be reformed very quickly, especially now with what's happening with COVID. And there's not enough aid that is being given to cultural sector workers, galleries, and artists, and curators that are out of work or that have had 3 to 5 months of work shelved. And we're looking at the possibility of that being even more, even longer.
Yeah.
Whether it happened in, with the rise of the real estate market under Tsipras and the golden visas that were being given to real estate investors investing more than $250,000 for properties, and actually raising the values, of course, of properties and making it harder for businesses and harder for the locals to survive.
And for a quite small investment, we're at the lowest golden visa.
I mean, that's totally, yeah, it's entirely possible. But the worst part of all is that the locals don't have the same credit.
Yeah.
So this is incredibly one-sided, and it's selling out Greece basically, and the rights of Greece, to foreigners. It's no wonder at all that Golden Dawn would gain votes in this kind of a situation. It's no wonder, and I'm half Chinese, you know, and I'm like trying to figure out how do I fit in and how do I do something positive for my culture, which is also Greek, and help the community to rethink these problems creatively.
Yeah.
When, of course, in fact, there are these institutional problems. People in Parliament who are just absolutely on another planet. They completely don't get it. They don't understand that they're creating a very one-sided economy, that they're actually reinforcing that, and that it's actually detrimental to the welfare of the state on the whole, because that means that there's no research and development that's happening within the communities. There's no municipal libraries are underfunded. There's no learning that's happening.
Practically non-existent.
Right, so it maintains a situation where populations are actually maintained in a state of ignorance. Or if they have more money, they send their kids off to another place, to other countries in Europe to study. It reinforces that.
Yeah.
And you want to stem the problem of the brain drain and nip it in the bud, and then stop that. You have to invest in the local economy and give the local economy the economic power that it needs and the credit that it needs, most importantly. And I can't even begin to tell you how hard it's been because of that.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be that way. So actually, artists could give as much in the cultural sector through the tax system as they could in the community. And so we're doing that, we're trying to, but right now with COVID and the lockdown, it's been extremely limited. We maintained an online presence with Art Instead, which was an exhibition series that was promoted through Facebook, through social media, and then of course on our website as well, giving artists a voice, a chance to exhibit their work and gain that kind of exposure and have people see the work, but also to encourage them to continue working. The morale of the community is like what's at stake, I think, as well, and that's a huge problem that is really underappreciated. You want to be in a happy society, you want to be in a sad society. You want to go to ESTHLA where things are miserable, and maybe Kolonaki where people are always happy about everything, smiling into thin space, or you want to, and you want to have a place where there's tear gas being, lobbed in every direction every other week. I mean, is that really the formula? And is a police crackdown the way to do it? Like, especially now, is that actually solving much? And moving forward, what do we do about all of the other problems? Education, ecology, sustainability. What's the Green New Deal about, really? The actors on the ground, the people that can make a difference, are they being enabled? Are we giving them that opportunity to actually become actors? Or is it going to be about choosing our favorites again?
Yeah, so quick tour of the space of the first gallery space that we started in 2018. So Phoenix Athens, Gallery 1 on SKP 87, and the show is Lee Wells's exhibition, Perfect Ending, which could also be a perfect beginning, depending on how you look at things. You can see here this big format piece he made, and then right behind you there's this small installation of a sort of anarchist squad. Lucy's checking it out now, right? Yeah, this show had a really good turnout. One of the things that I started taking on board with Phoenix Athens was ecology, and I was really interested in seeing how I could also reframe people's perspectives of what a gallery was, of what contemporary art was, and how it connects with the environment, and not just the neighborhood, but also with ecology as a theme. So I've done a lot of plantings and we've built furniture, outdoor furniture, so people feel comfortable, you know, coming here, but also showing that we can upcycle, recycle, make things, and grow, you know, the local community. So even though we had to close the shows with the quarantines, with the quarantine rather, you know, we've kept the shows basically up. You know, everything is still in place. And this was a show that we had for students from Diri College, the American College of Greece, and it was curated by one of the students and my assistant, Christina Macri. What else? We have a mezzanine space upstairs for artists in residence, or for myself in some cases to produce work. There's also a small video booth in the back, and then a small workshop. And then I'll show you the makerspace if you want to see that as well.
Sure.
So, essentially, the makerspace is open to the community, and it's available for artists and residents to use. We have, on average, anywhere between 1 to 3 artists and residents at a time who come. And right now, of course, it's been very quiet.
Yeah.
Everybody's been quarantined, and they haven't been able to leave their own countries, which is a shame, of course. But we're expecting things to pick up again between June and September. And so the makerspace is basically it's a space for artists to muck around and create sculpture, and so that they're able to produce work for shows, ambitious pieces, while they're here in Athens. We also have one residency spot, studio space for people to live in, upstairs from one of the galleries. So
Great.
that's Phoenix,
So-
Athens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.